Which choice best describes data from the graph that support Ibanez and colleagues' conclusion? Ines Ibanez and colleagues studied a forest site in which some sugar maple trees receive periodic fertilization with nitrogen to mimic the broader trend of increasing anthropogenic nitrogen deposition in soil. Ibanez and colleagues modeled the radial growth of the trees with and without nitrogen fertilization under three different climate scenarios: the current climate, moderate change, and extreme change. Although they found that climate change would negatively affect growth, they concluded that anthropogenic nitrogen deposition could more than offset that effect, provided that the change is moderate rather than extreme. So this graph here shows the radial growth of sugar maple trees under the current, moderate change, and extreme change, and highlights these in both with scenarios in nitrogen and without nitrogen. So option choice A says, growth with nitrogen under the current climate exceeded growth with nitrogen under moderate change, but the latter exceeded growth without nitrogen under extreme change. So this is incorrect because although this is supported by data in the graph, it doesn't support the conclusion by Ibanez and colleagues, where the conclusion highlighted that the nitrogen deposition could more than offset that effect, provided that the change is moderate rather than extreme. So this isn't supported here because to properly support it, it would have to compare the growth without nitrogen under current with growth with nitrogen under moderate. But this is not the case, because in A it highlights that growth with nitrogen under the current exceeded growth with nitrogen under moderate. And therefore, because this does not properly support the claim, A is incorrect. B. Growth without nitrogen under the current climate exceeded growth without nitrogen under the moderate change, but the latter exceeded growth with nitrogen under extreme change. So this is incorrect because the conclusion specifically said that nitrogen deposition could more than offset that effect, provided that change is moderate rather than extreme. Therefore, it means that the growth without nitrogen under current climate should be compared with growth with nitrogen under moderate change. But this is not the case in B because it compares growth without nitrogen under the current climate, which is correct, with growth without nitrogen under moderate change. This is incorrect because it should be growth with nitrogen under moderate change. So B is incorrect. C. Growth with nitrogen under moderate change exceeded growth without nitrogen under moderate change, but the latter exceeded growth without nitrogen under extreme change. So this is incorrect for the same reason as option B is incorrect, because growth with nitrogen under moderate change is being compared to growth without nitrogen under moderate change. So for this to be correct, it should be growth without nitrogen under the current climate compared to growth with nitrogen under moderate change. But this is not the case, and therefore C is incorrect. D. Growth with nitrogen under moderate change exceeded growth without nitrogen under the current climate, but the latter exceeded growth without nitrogen under extreme change. So this is the correct answer because it properly highlights how nitrogen deposition could more than offset the effect, provided that the change is moderate. And this is done in the first part, where it highlights how growth with nitrogen under moderate change, which is this third graph here, this gray graph, and how that exceeded growth without nitrogen under the current climate. So it correctly highlights how this gray graph, which represents growth with nitrogen under moderate change, is greater than growth without nitrogen under the current climate. And then the latter part, it says that, but the latter exceeded growth without nitrogen under extreme change. So it's comparing this gray graph, which represents growth without nitrogen under the current climate, to growth with nitrogen under extreme change. So this correctly shows the last part of the claim by Ibanez, which is that the effect can more than offset the effect, provided that change is moderate rather than extreme. Therefore, the correct answer is D.